Our speaker this afternoon comes to us from Sami territory in Northern Europe. Gunn Heatta is an Indigenous Sami woman from the northern part of Norway. Her family were traditionally reindeer herders. Ms. Heatta is a clinical social worker and has a master in business administration and has been working as the director of the Sami Norwegian Advisory Unit on Mental Health and Substance Use since 2005. Earlier, Ms. Heatta worked with substance use, abuse, and suicidal behavior in the Sami Psychiatric Youth Team, as well as leading the Child and Adolescent Psychiatric Outpatient Clinic for some years. For several years, Gunn Heatta was an assist training coach. That means applied suicide intervention skills training. She lives in Kautokeino, is married, and has 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. I'll invite you now, Gunn, to come up and give us your address.
Yes, thank you very much. Vår manjelgaska baby, mun län stuorsaap me Gudruna Gunne. Mun kiitan tan koulu tuota oamastedji, kostaattu allu talleat. Kuulin almuga. Ja mun annan arvus sin borrasid ja sin perrasid. Ja ära borrasid ketahpeletal. Mun kiitan erinomas Dr. Lowitja o Donoju and Dr. Romli Mokak. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is taking place, the land of Kulin, and pay respect to their elders and families and other elders present today. I also would like to acknowledge Dr. Lowitja O'Donoghue and Dr. Romli Mokak for their warm welcome. Thank you. I'm really honored and must thank the Lowitja Institute for the opportunity to talk to you all at this important Indigenous health conference. I don't think it's necessary to say so much about myself after the presentation, but let me give you another picture. As you can see, I'm not always dressed like this in my traditional clothes, or perhaps that's my traditional clothes. As a Sami woman, I also have to attend in preparing for winter time. And I promise you, it's hard work, but you feel happier afterwards. And here, you can imagine why it's important to prepare for winter time. It can be very cold. Yesterday, it was between 20 to 25 degrees below zero, but it can be between 40 to 50 below. So it's quite different from here. Even though it's not as common now as earlier that it's that cold, we also notice the climate change. In the picture, you also see 2 of my grandchildren, and in one of the pictures, you see my oldest grandson catching his very first fish. And then you have to document that. It's very important. So to my speech. First, I will give you some information about the Sami people, and I'm very glad that I have that presentation, because these days I've heard that some people here never heard about us before. I will tell you a little bit about research done, and our institution, SANKS, as we call it shortly. But most of my speech will be about two methods of treatment that we have developed and adapted for Sami culture. And then I think it's important that I tell you that this is done in the frame of an official specialist institution, which doesn't allow us to do all that we would like to do. And at last, I will tell you a little bit about our future plans. We call it Sámi terveysvuoda siitä. The word sida is used in reindeer herding. A sida consists of some families, 3, 4 perhaps, who are working and sharing all the work they have with their reindeers. And we want to do the same with our patients. We want to work together and coordinate mental health, substance use, and somatic treatment under one leadership. The indigenous Sami people are residing in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the Kola Peninsula in Russia. Because of a quite hard assimilation and suppression, we estimate that the size of the population is around 100,000, but probably it could be quite much more, but we don't know how much. What we do know is that most of the Sami are residing in Norway, and that Norway is the only country of those I mentioned that has ratified the ILO Convention 169, which deals with the rights of indigenous and tribal people. We also have national laws in Norway in order to provide favorable conditions that will allow the Sami people to protect and develop the language, culture, and social life. As I mentioned, the Sami people have a history of forced assimilation and suppression in various ways, but still is not at all as violent compared to other Aboriginal peoples and First Nations. The main threat is exploitation of land, for example, mining and tourist trade, and extinction of languages and culture. Many Sami parents are struggling and fighting in order to pass on the Sami culture and language to their children, even though if we have laws that should protect us as indigenous people. And then a little bit about research done. There are few studies on mental health and substance use in the Sami population, but let me mention some of those. In 2005, Spain et al. Found that there is less substance use among Sami compared to Norwegians. I just talked to my dear friend and colleague, Siv Kvernmo, and she has looked into this, how would it be today? And the adolescents, they are drinking less today than earlier. Today is no difference between Sami and Norwegian adolescents. But the Sami parents are still drinking less than the Norwegians, and that's good. Silvik and Kvernmo found in 2007 that it's a 30% increased risk of suicide mortality among Sami adults, but no differences in rates of suicide attempts in Sami youth compared to majority peers. In 2015, Eriksen et al. Found that there is an increased risk of assault in Sami women. Approximately 50% of Sami have experienced lifetime violence, psychological, physical, or sexual. Violence from known perpetrators compared to 30% of the majority population. Turi et al. Found that Sami adolescents participating in Sami cultural activities and with Sami language competence had less mental health problems. On the other hand, Hansen et al. Found that the strong Sami identity and ethnic discrimination are related to more anxiety and depression in Sami adolescents. When it comes to adults, research shows that ethnic discrimination affects Sami adults' physical health in many domains negatively. I think that I can say that we haven't really understood the impact of the assimilation processes, but we start to do that now. So, some words about SANKS. SANKS has been established to achieve the overall objective of providing equal health services to the Sami population across geographical, linguistic, and cultural boundaries. SANKS is both an ordinary service for Finnmark County, the most northern county in Norway, concerning mental health and substance use treatment, and we are also a national advisory unit with a responsibility for services to the Sami people in Norway. That's quite complicated and demands good organization and a flexible use of resources. It's complicated to be an official institution and at the same time provide treatment based on Sami culture, especially with a hospital trust that doesn't understand and care very much. SANKS can provide all necessary services for mental health and substance use, both in and outpatient treatments, except coercive treatment. In addition, we have our own research unit and a research fund of 2 million Norwegian crowns per year. And we are around 130 employees today. Our main goals are to provide clinical service, increase research, and develop and educate specialists and students. We shall also make other services able to treat Sami people with cultural skills, like municipalities or other specialist health care or substance use institutions. And in order to do that, to work in that kind of institution, I like to think that you have to, or at least should feel, a special commitment when you are working in an Aboriginal institution like ours. Then you can contribute more, but you will also be more satisfied with the work that you are doing. In order to give good services to Sami people living outside Finnmark County, we had to organize ourselves different some years ago. In the north, you see our main offices. And then we also have offices in other parts of Sápmi, including one office in the capital, Oslo. And we also have agreements with one county in Sweden and one in Finland. And there Sami patients can get treatment from SANKs, or we can give supervision to their health workers. And they can also get practice at SANKs. Even though, if it's only one county in Sweden who have one agreement with us, more and more Sami, especially from the most northern part, Norrbotten County, asks for help from us. And we take them in and pay all their expenses. It would be very difficult to say no to one of our brothers or sisters on the other side of the border, a border that the majority states have made. So then I will talk about the two different methods that we have developed in SANKs in order to adapt our treatment to Sami culture. And I hope that this can be of use, that we can exchange experiences about how we can do this. And being here and talk about this, that it can contribute. The first one we call mätseterapia in Sami language. It's difficult to translate to English. It's even difficult to translate to Norwegian. So it's not really wilderness therapy, but more like I wrote the treatment in the outlying land, but I heard that you say here being on the country. And the other one is milieu therapy activities based on nature and Sami values and norms. So first about mätseterapia. It's our family unit that has developed and used this method. The families normally stays for 4 weeks and can also revisit if necessary. And with families, then we are talking about extended families. The children get their education in our own school during these weeks. Our teachers have close contact with the school at home, so they know what's important to teach and to practice during the stay with us. And if you are wondering about the parents and the stay, in Norway, it's like when you come to treatment, you are on sick leave, so you don't lose any money. In the second week, we invite all our families to come with us outland or into the country. I haven't heard that anyone had said no still. And we have been doing this for quite some years now. As long as the weather permits, you saw how much snow we can have and how cold it can be. But as long as we can, we stay in a Sami tent called lavvo in Sami language. And the rest of the year we stay in cabins. So what we are doing is that we are changing the context for treatment from the therapy room to the nature. Since this context is more familiar to the family, they become the experts, not the therapists. And we talk while we are working side by side, and we attend to central values like flexibility, equality, and informal interaction. When we establish good circumstances for interaction, it's much easier to get good relation and encourage to dialogue. And in that way, we can also give the family a feeling of mastery of situations. And this way of working is very different from therapy in an office. It's the family that steer the pace, which give a great extent of flexibility and new experiences. You can extend the communication tools, both verbal and non-verbally, by using metaphors or symbols from the nature. I was once working with a young girl that had tried to kill herself and still had a lot of suicidal thoughts. When she told me about her situation, she said, "It's like I'm walking in a swamp. My feet are going down and it's sucking me and it's holding me down. I can't move on further." To be able to help her, I don't know, we have a lot of swamps in the northern Norway, and I don't know how to say this in English, but in these swamps there are like small bumps. You can walk on some of them, but not others. I could call it like safe ground. And then I said to her, "Okay, so you are in a swamp, but you know these swamps very well. You know that there are safe ground. To come here to talk to me is a safe ground. Your mother and father, your family at home is a safe ground." And like that, we could use the nature as a metaphor for her struggle. And she could move on. So you observe in a different way and you see other things when you are working outside in the nature. Food is important. This is traditional Sami food. So we make food together and we eat together. And for those of you who were attended the first evening, you heard that it was something about, coming in like a Norwegian and going out like a Sami. And it's true, I used to joke and say that some families comes in as a Norwegian family and they goes out as a Sami family. But that's really been happening several times. Like one mother said once, they were sitting around the fire in this Sami tent, Lavo, in the evening, eating. And then she said, "This kind of food we had very often at home when I was a child." And then the therapist asked her, she said, "But this is typical Sami food." And then she told her family for the first time that she had a Sami background. And that changed the understanding and the relation and the further work between her and the family, but also between her and the therapists. This method also has more focus on fathers, or facilitate the treatment for fathers. I don't know how it's other places, but I can say that in the Sami culture, if you are in a treatment room, then there is the mother who is the leading person. But out in the nature, the father gets a better opportunity to show his skills and what he is good at. it can be easier to talk side by side instead of looking into each other's eyes. In this picture, you can see that they have been fishing under the ice with a net. So the father teaches the child how to do this and can also provide the child with an extended history of how his father got these skills and so on. Yesterday at the dinner, I saw when the dance group came in with the two small boys, I saw that the little one, he was all the time looking at his father. How is he moving? What is he doing? And then he did exactly the same. And this is a very, very nice way of cultural education. It was very nice to see this. And so to the milieu therapy activities. Our inpatient unit for adolescents based their milieu therapy on Sami values and norms and activities in the nature. They normally have 6 to 7 adolescents at the same time for treatment. Usually in the age between 13 to 18, they can be younger or older, more often older than 18. How long they stay depends on how complicated their problems are. The adolescents also attend our school, and the cooperation between the teachers and us are, of course, very important. We use Sami values, activities, and nature as our tools. We have focus on cultural understanding, communication, and collaboration. And in that way, we try to give our youth a feeling of empowerment. And that's important because these young people have many negative and unsuccessful experiences during lifetime. The activities are based on the season with day trips 2 to 3 times a week and longer trips every 4 to 6 weeks. And in order to evaluate, it's important that they set individual goals. Like one young girl with heavy compulsive problems, her goal was to stay overnight in a snow cave. And that was very difficult for her. She struggled a lot before she managed to do that. But to her surprise, all compulsive behavior disappeared in that context. And she then realized that her compulsive problems were contextual. It wasn't something bad with her. And she said afterwards that trip changed her life. This is the 5 most important Sami values and norms that we focus on. I will go through one by one. The first value is called Ersbirget in the Sami language, and it's a very important Sami value. Translated to English, it will be independence, or perhaps even better, to manage by your own. And we therefore encourage youth to learn and participate in activities that can make them master and feel able. For example, to learn how to make a snow cave and then sleep outside in wintertime, like I mentioned earlier. And to learn those kind of skills can be very important also for survival in our area, but also, of course, to feel mastery. The second value is based on a relation that is sensitive, closed, and relaxed between the adolescents and the therapists. And we often use indirect communication. Like the time when one young boy and an elderly man went out to cut trees. The old man observed that the young guy was cutting the trees too high up. Instead of telling him that you are doing this in the wrong way, he told the story when they had the break. Then he told about when he once was out cutting trees with his own son, and his son was cutting the trees too high up, and the consequences of that. When they continued, the young boy made sure that he cut the trees just like the old man did. Of course, when they came back, the old man bragged about how good the young boy had worked. So with indirect communication, he changed the behavior, and the boy could keep his pride. And we also use humor and a soft teasing, that it's an important Sámi way to strengthen someone. We call it narridepme, and we start with that when they are children already. It's not a teasing that should make the other one to feel bad, but rather to make both laugh. So you have to be careful and sensitive when you use this method. My nephew lost his father when he was 12 years old. It was my cousin who died then. It's like we are extended family, so my cousin's children, I'm their aunt. It's in the Sami way. The year my cousin had cancer, the years before he died and after, I could see that my nephew had a very bad time. He didn't want to talk, and he got very aggressive. So when something happened, he got really mad. So sometime after his father had died, I started to tease him softly. I think he was perhaps around 13 years old then. And what can you use when you are going to tease a young boy? Girls, of course. And so I started to say when we were someplace, and it was some young girls there, I said, "Did you see that girl? She's really nice, don't you think so?" And then you said, no, I don't like her. And then, "Yeah, I think she likes you. And then we laugh, both of us. And in that way, I could make him to feel stronger. I could make him so he not got angry if other people talked to him or said something to him that he didn't like. The Sami society is more based on collective values than individual ones. The extended family and the neighborhood is very important. When you are hunting or fishing, you don't think only about yourself, but you share the catch with your extended family, friends, or other people who have needs, like people who are disabled or old. I also saw that yesterday with the fish stands. When they explained afterwards, twice they catch a fish, and the second time it wasn't for themselves, but for the community. And as a collective value, you also take part in raising and upbringing the children. As Indigenous people, we have a close relationship to nature. And one important value is what we call luonto ellin, to live close to the nature. So we therefore focus on activities outside, very often in collaboration with reindeer herders, fishermen, or other activities, like, for example, mushing, to work with animals. Dogs can, for some kids that never have experienced loyalty and trust, be very important. Or, as I said, slaughtering reindeers. This we do every autumn. They just been doing that when I left. The adolescents take part in the whole process then, from slaughtering to carving and to making the food and eat together. Or picking berries is also something that we do in summertime and autumn. Here, blueberries. The last value is the importance of language. Since the language is a central part of the culture and also is in danger of extinction, we want to, and we do, hire therapists that speak Sami. I think that around 60% of our employees speak Sami language. But sadly, it's only the northern Sami language. I could say that roughly if I take the biggest languages, we have 3 big languages in Norway, Sami languages. And in this unit, we don't have anyone who speaks any other language than the northern Sami. And all over, we have only one who speaks the southern Sami language and one who speaks the Sami language from the middle part. And not anyone from the other, a little bit smaller languages. And then, at last, a little bit about our future plans. Our future plans, we think that they consist of a new and improved system. With Sami Terveyshuoda, or Sami Health Services as I called it here, we have sought a somewhat different approach to patient treatment than the traditional Norwegian or Western system. Our goal is to achieve a more holistic view on patient problems and to provide a greater flexibility of services, also toward our partners. When receiving an offer from Sami Terveyshuoda as a patient, it will be assessed based on your particular problems. We know, for instance, that patients with a substance use problem often have additional psychological and somatic problems. They will then need a service that addresses all their needs, rather than being sent from place to place for treatment of each specific condition, like is today. And we also We are also seeking a comprehensive and flexible approach to our cooperation with our partners. We are traveling out quite a lot when we are in our work. We are still going to do that. We will continue to do that, only that we now also will have the somatic offer medicine with us. So, for example, we could have a diabetic team with a doctor, a nurse, and a psychologist. Because if you get diabetic and you are going to live with it your whole life, you have to change the way you are thinking. So it's important to have also someone to talk to do that. We also think that with coordination of services, one administration and one leadership, that we can get one organization that utilizes the resources in a better way in order to provide equal services and good accessibility for patients and their families, students, and collaboration partners. You can find more information about us in our website or Facebook site, and please go in and like it and share it with all your friends. Thank you very much for your attention. Ollu kiitos kuokkaita.